Welcome to the oasis.state podcast, a podcast where we peel back the layers of life's mysteries, decode the cosmic dance, and embrace the technicolor tapestry of our existence. I'm Zoe, your guide through the twists and turns of this wild journey we call life. If you've ever felt like you don't quite fit into society's mold, well, you've found the right place. Join me as we dive deep into the pool of existence, exploring the WTF moments that make life simultaneously confusing and exhilarating. From soul-expanding experiences to heart-wrenching healing journeys, we'll shine the light on all of it, and I'll share how we can alchemize these moments into pure magic and transformation. Consider this podcast your safe haven, your home away from home, where you can let your freak flag fly and embrace the full spectrum of who you are. So are you ready to join me on this soul-expanding adventure? Buckle up, my friends. Let's make some magic together. Hello, gorgeous listener, and welcome back to another episode of the Oasis.state podcast. I'm your host, Zoe. Okay, guys, today's episode is a recording for a listener-requested topic. So I'm a little bit nervous. This is actually the fourth time I've pressed record, and I just get a few minutes into my recording and I just start rambling, and I'm like, just take a breath and relax. So I'm feeling a bit nervous because obviously it being a listener request, I don't want to disappoint. But thankfully this topic is near and dear to my heart. I unfortunately had to figure out all of this information in a very painful and isolating way. So I hope that anyone that's listening to this, it creates a bit kind of fast tracks your understanding of this topic and helps you do it in a less dramatic kind of way. But yes, so I feel like I've called in this situation and I am very nervous, but it's okay. Like the nerves are because I'm stepping out of my comfort zone a bit more. And I already get a bit nervous when I jump on and record a podcast episode. But then I was also feeling quite disconnected because I've got my podcast. It's a very one-sided experience. It's not a conversation. Like unless I get a guest on, I'm just talking and I'm sharing my opinions and how I feel about the world. And then you just press record and then at any time anyone can listen, which is so fantastic. And I love that. But I've also been, feeling a bit isolated or feeling like it's just such a one-way conversation. So the other day I popped up a story on my social media and a listener, thank you, Jess, actually responded to my request. Hey guys, does anyone have a particular topic that they would like me to cover? And Jess popped on and shared this. And I'm so excited, but I'm also so nervous because it's just a different experience for me. But yeah, it's great because I actually called this in. Like I said, I've been feeling really isolated almost from my audience and just really craving a connection with my audience, community, clients and all of that jazz. And I've only just relaunched my business after a 18-month personal hiatus. So it's fine. It's just going to take a while to kind of like keep showing up and finding the right people. So yeah, I was feeling really isolated, put myself out there. Jess has responded. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited, but I'm also equally nervous because I just want to serve you guys. I just want to help anyone out there who is as committed to understanding their personal development journey or the deeper meaningfulness of life or their sense of purpose. I want to be here as a companion and a guide for you guys. So yeah, I hope that all of this information that I have to provide lands for Jess and for anyone else that listens and it resonates with. So the topic is help with not getting stuck in the fixing mode during personal development. And oh my God, I'm so glad you asked me this because like I said, I actually had to fucking figure it out the really shit way. And I just don't want anyone to go through that. And obviously all of the experiences have provided the lessons for me to sit here now for you and share that. So I'm not there like, oh, I wish it didn't happen that way. But I love that this question has been asked because it helps me find that peace of mind with you had to go through it in this more uncomfortable way to really get this information, really get this understanding. And I hope that it will just fast track the experience for anyone else that's feeling like this. And then just bring them into a state of acceptance about it all. So I'm rambling. I'm just going to get started. Hey. I am, I suppose rambling and procrastinating a little bit, but I've taken some notes so that I don't ramble too much. So here we go. So basically, a bit of a backstory. I started my spiritual awakening like over 10 years ago now. And but for the first few years of that, I was sort of doing it in on my own journey. So, just reading the classic self-help books and buying myself some oracle cards and pulling a card and being like, wow, this is amazing. And just sort of, excuse me, following my own nose with my spiritual development experience. And that was because I didn't really have a community around me. And that's no disrespect to my personal community. It was just like I sort of went through the spiritual awakening. That wasn't a high value for anyone else. But anyone that's gone through a spiritual awakening, you realize like it's not actually your you're not really sort of in control of it. Or I suppose you can just like distract yourself and push it back down, but it will be a very uncomfortable experience. So I sort of went through a spiritual awakening and I didn't have anyone around me that was sort of going through the same experience. Until a few years later, I met a friend who introduced me to the personal development world and specifically the mindset development world. And I was so elated. And I started working on the same program that he was working on. I had a mentor, I had a community, and it was, oh my God, it was like one of the happiest times in my life because I was like, oh, I found my people. And mindset development work really quickly is, focusing on our subconscious beliefs, understanding the power of our thoughts. There is a spiritual aspect as well, and understanding the universe and our spiritualness. And I did that work for a little while and I was successfully shifting my subconscious beliefs. But then I kind of went into this really painful experience of I was successfully doing all of that mindset development, but I had to figure out the hard way and almost in the painful way that we are actually holistic beings. So we have a spiritual intelligence, we have an emotional intelligence, a physical intelligence, and a mental intelligence, which was the mindset development work. And I was successfully shifting all of this stuff, but being a holistic being, if you're, I was shifting that mental intelligence, but I had no tools and no support for the inevitable effects that that mental intelligence piece had on my physical intelligence, my my emotional intelligence and my spiritual intelligence. So I was doing all the work. It was really amazing. And then I sort of hit this huge wall and life got really uncomfortable. And now I realize that through that mental intelligence work that I was doing, or that mindset development work, I was shifting, repressed trauma that I needed to deal with. My inner child was screaming out for some love and support. My nervous system was completely dysregulated, and there was no tools or support around me to, do this kind of work in a more sustainable and more enjoyable way. So I feel like I have also experienced that moment or that period of life where I just got stuck in the fixing mode. And then because I was fixing myself, but I didn't know how to come back to that compassion piece or zoom out and see myself as the holistic being that I am, I was fixing, and then I'm dredging up all of this stuff that I needed more time to fix and more and more, and it was just such a painful experience. And I didn't know anything about regulating my nervous system. I didn't know anything about integrating the changes that you're making and the fixing that you're doing, So yeah, that's sort of where I'm gaining all of this information from, and just, obviously from my experience and whatever I'm sort of channeling through my higher self as well. So yeah, it's not fun. It's really not fun when you feel like you're stuck in the fixing mode of the personal development. And the first piece of advice that I want to offer for that is check in with your intention behind why you are, quotation marks, fixing yourself. And I don't even really like that term, fixing yourself. I think it should be more about connecting with yourself. And I even think the term working on yourself sort of has a better connotation with it. Because we are not beings that need to be fixed. I believe that we came here to this earth all as, obviously we're all souls. That's how we're alive. That's how we have this life force energy moving through us, beating our heart, making our brains work and produce thoughts, etc. And we all came to earth with a predetermined set of circumstances, of challenges, of strengths, of gifts. And it is our job throughout this life to slowly unravel any blind spots that we have about that. So it's not actually about fixing yourself. It's about realizing that we have all come here with a particular set of challenges and, like I said, gifts and all of that jazz. So firstly, just changing your words are so powerful because we've learnt words, and our languages are basically just labels for things, and like they're common understandings of a topic. And it's yeah, like language and labels and words and things like that, it's just so surface level. And I think some of the things that you are shining a light on in your personal development journey, it's just you simply cannot put a label on it. So be mindful of your wording with like, I need to fix myself, or I'm in the fixing mode, because essentially you don't actually need to be fixed. We're here on this earth as souls to just understand ourselves and discover ourselves and remember ourselves at all times. So that's actually my first piece of advice, is get really, really clear on any negatively geared language towards this kind of like rut, a personal development rut that you can find yourself in, and replacing it with very constructive, uplifting words like, I'm finding myself, I'm loving myself, I'm remembering myself, I'm understanding myself, and rather than I'm fixing myself. Because you don't need to be fixed. You actually came to this planet completely perfect and amazing, and we've got, like I said, we've got all these lessons and a particular soul contract, and that's the work that you're doing. But essentially, when you're coming back to connecting with the pure essence of yourself, that is perfect. So you don't need to be fixed, baby girl. You don't need to be fixed. You're actually perfect. It's just about removing all the smoke and mirrors and these superficial layers to come back to a deeper, more authentic connection to the beautiful essence that you are. And that's that whole self-acceptance piece. But I digress. I'm going to stay on point with my notes so that I don't just waffle. So yeah, I don't even know if I said this, so I sort of went on a bit of a tangent with the whole fixing yourself thing, but that is my first point now. The second point is check in with your intention behind the need to fix yourself. And so that would be, if you were going to check in with yourself, that's, maybe going on a walk and just floating that idea around your head and seeing what comes through. Or if you feel inclined to do some journaling work, like type that out. Why do I feel like I need to fix myself? And this is a process of understanding whether it is actual societal conditioning that has made you believe that you need to fix yourself, which I think probably 99% of the reason we need to fix ourselves is from societal conditioning. And societal conditioning is just all of this fucking shitty perfectionism and hustle culture and push. And it's actually disconnecting us from achieving the result that we want. So if you're always in fixing mode, you'll never actually, it's like your mind and your ego and the societal conditioning actually always projecting into the future that moment where you are, quotation marks, perfect or fixed or developed or whatever the label is you're putting on it, So meditate on that question, journal on that question, get clear with your intention around your use for personal development or your use for a daily practice, because it needs to be about deeply actually connecting with the authentic part of yourself rather than fixing yourself. And the fixing yourself part comes from the societal conditioning. And if you're someone that is doing all of the right things by society's standards. So I got the job, I've got the partner, I've got the home and the mortgage, I travel once a year, like just that very, like I'm actually having a visceral response as I'm thinking about this. I like want to vomit because it's like, fuck that autopilot bullshit, It's totally okay to have all of those things. But if you're someone that's achieving all of those things and ticking off the good girl societal, society box, but you're still feeling so fucking frustrated, so lost and so unfulfilled. Sorry, I got a hip cramp. That is because your intention behind all of this stuff is actually run by societal conditioning. It's not actually your pathway, your unique, beautiful pathway to happiness. And it doesn't mean you don't have to have those things. If you've got the job, if you've got the house, if you've got like the holidays, like enjoy those. But if you're feeling dissatisfied with those and you're constantly reaching for the next thing to help yourself feel good, it's actually a sign that you're deeply disconnected from your soul's purpose, from yourself. So I'm like stumbling, but I'm trying to like really make this point land and find the right words. So yeah, take some time to check in with the intention of why you're doing personal development or spiritual development, because you might have actually like veered off onto the wrong path and that's why you're feeling dissatisfied with it. But because you're feeling dissatisfied with it and you haven't acknowledged or identified that's why there's dissatisfaction, you're just going to keep pushing into that personal development realm and be like, oh, okay, well, I mustn't be doing enough, or I must need to journal more, I must need to do more and more and more. But it's actually like, no, you're just like pushing shit up the wrong hill. So take some time to journal, check in with your intentions around why you need to fix yourself. Understand that there might be some societal conditioning there, and then accept that. It's like, okay, cool. What do you do after that? You need to get clear on your intentions, like an authentic intention for working on yourself, because working on yourself is great and amazing. But I'm just saying that it's going to be a really fucking confusing and really painful situation when you're actually working towards an end goal that isn't even yours or doesn't even resonate with you. You know, some people might want to climb the corporate ladder and that's really a thing for them. And they're like, yep, I want to be at the top. But if you ask them why they want to be at the top, it might just be like, oh, I just want to feel successful, you know. And you can sort of see these holes in people, what they're working towards, because it's not actually their thing. Some people might be very introverted and very shy, and they're like, you know what, my dream is just to buy an acre of land, live off the land, you know, build my gardens, have a cup of tea every morning. And for some people that might be their definition of hell. But that's what I mean, is like everyone has a unique understanding and expression of happiness. And if you're stuck in this fixing mode with personal development, chances are you actually haven't gotten clear on where you want to go or what actually resonates with you. Like, are you introverted? Are you extroverted? Like there's so many layers. I'm not going to like ramble on about it, but journal on that. And then also, like I said, reach out to me if it's triggered something in you, or if you've got a blind spot. We can just talk in the DMs, or you could eventually book in for a session as well, and we could really personalize like this redirection and finding like, okay, well, I feel like I've been going this way and I'm constantly achieving things and it's not actually bringing me any happiness. Then I can help you pivot in the right direction, because I've done that as well, guys. I've achieved a lot of things that are a thumbs up from society, and they have just left me burnt out, lost, and confused. So that's my second point, is get really clear on your intentions, why you need to fix yourself or why you want to commit to that personal development journey, because it's a wonderful journey, but you just need to be making sure you're going in the right direction. So yeah. Also, if you feel like you're stuck in the fixing mode of personal development, it's probably because you think there's a destination that you need to reach. And I'm sorry to break your heart, but personal development is a lifelong journey, and it's actually always just going to be a journey. There's never ever going to be a destination. And that's not to say that there isn't going to be moments in your journey where you're sort of like, so an analogy, if you will, if your personal development journey is like, obviously we're always aiming towards up leveling and, you know, doing all of that kind of stuff. And I'm really struggling with the words for this, because it's such a masculine. So masculine and feminine is our yin and yang. Masculine is very logical. It's very outward, and it has its place. And I can do a whole nother episode on like masculine and feminine energy, but essentially we all have masculine and feminine. All of our actions are interlaced with masculine and feminine energy. And the personal development world is very, very masculine. And I have gone through that journey of feeling quite dissatisfied with personal development and moved more, like I said, zoomed out into that holistic space, which is a huge piece on the feminine side of it. So if you are feeling quite frustrated with the personal development journey, it might be because you are really needing to understand feminine energy and yin energy, and there's so many ways that can be applied. So I don't want to go down all those rabbit holes right now, but yeah. So if you are seeing the personal development world as an analogy right now, it's like climbing up a mountain, and there are definitely points, obviously, in your journey, like otherwise we wouldn't all be committed to it, where you're sort of like climbing the mountain and then you'll reach a little ridge or ledge, and that's where you can like put your pack down, have a sip of water, and look out at this new level. Like this, you've climbed up to this new level, and you're like, wow, look at the view, look at how I see life. Excuse me, burping up my cacao. Yeah, and there's definitely moments where you can stop and enjoy it, and that might help you kind of scratch that itch of like, oh, I've reached my destination. Because I'm actually releasing another podcast episode about the stages of your conscious development, because we do have the manifestation, really like masculine, work hard, like quotation marks, work hard journey. And then it'll trigger this regenerative healing period, which I think we're very trained to think that that means that something has gone wrong, but it's actually like that's where the nitty gritty work is. So on your personal development journey, you're climbing up the mountain. There is definitely points where you feel like you can reach a destination, and that'll be a particular stage of your conscious journey, and you can have a break and you're like, oh my God, like, and you look down the mountain, you're like, look at all of that work I've done. It worked. Oh my God, I'm feeling really good in myself, and I can look around and enjoy the view. But personal development is a lifelong journey, and soon enough, you will feel that call to keep climbing up the mountain. So I just wanted to provide that analogy for you so that you're like, oh, I'm stuck in the fixing phase of personal development. It's like, no, you're just at a particular phase of your conscious development. And I think understanding that it's a lifelong journey and there isn't actually a destination will help you like kind of soften into that. Oh, okay, right now I'm sort of in this place. But it's like an ego trap, guys. The whole, I need to fix myself. I need to fix myself. So I've probably said this on like a bazillion episodes, but I'm just going to quickly paraphrase it now, is that our mind and our egos should not be in the driver's seat of our life. They are great instruments, but they should not be in the driver's seat. They should not be in any sense of control. You need to be doing practices in your personal development experience that are bringing you back to your higher self and tapping you into your intuition. And that's a very feminine side of it as well. Anyway, I digress. So your mind is an instrument that is here to predict things. So even when you've got horrible habits and you're all like self-destructive, you're self-sabotaging, your brain and your ego will keep you in that predictable loop, because it is only designed to be black and white. So it's like, okay, so if Zoe sleeps in again, then that means that I can predict that she, even if it's like, it can protect like your depression or like a feeling of discomfort. Like, it's so hard to make those changes because our brain is there like, no, but I need you to do a pattern so that I can keep you safe, sort of thing. So you might find yourself in a fixing mode because, one, when you're about to come into a huge breakthrough with your personal development, your ego and your mind will throw everything it can at you to keep you safe and in that predictable level. So it's actually probably created this story for you that, oh, I'm in the fixing mode. I'm in the fixing mode. It's keeping you in the fixing mode because it's trying to keep you safe. And that's fine. It's just doing its job. But when you let it get in the driver's seat, you've given it a job role that it is completely unqualified for. So you need to realize that your brain and your conditioning has created, the healing or the healed version or the perfect version or the successful version, whatever, story you're telling yourself. It has created this separation in your journey to keep you safe and keep going, because it needs to break you. You need to break out of that sort of thing. But I don't mean keep going in, keep doing the same things that you think you need to do to fix yourself. I'm just saying that there's probably a story there about being stuck in the fixing phase because it's just your brain and your conditioning trying to keep you safe. And I keep saying brain, but it's not actually your brain, it's your mind. Your brain is the anatomical part of your, of this. And then your mind is like the electromagnetic soul connected part, but it's just an instrument, So yeah, be mindful of that. Oh, I'm stuck in the fixing mode. It's like, I think your ego has actually created a story to keep you safe. And it's always like that healed, successful, whatever version of yourself is always going to be a projection into the future because it doesn't actually want you to reach that. But like I said, it's an encouraging sign that you might feel stuck in your fixing mode because you might actually be right on the edge of a breakthrough. And that's when your ego and your mind will actually throw everything it fucking can at you because it doesn't want you to evolve, because it can't predict how to keep you safe, and that's fine. But as the holistic spiritual beings that we are, we actually do need to evolve. So just be mindful that right before a breakthrough that everything can actually get super fucking uncomfortable, and you might be stuck in this fixing mode because your ego is actually just trying to keep you safe. So there might be an encouraging sign, but that's for you to digest and be like, no, I definitely think this or that. So I'm not going to keep rambling because you just need to interpret the information that I've provided you for your personal experience. Because like I said, I'm just recording a podcast. I don't actually know where you're at. So unless we connect, I can't actually like back and forth about this. So I'll save my breath. Hey. So yeah, personal development's a lifelong thing. Depends what you're doing with your personal development journey. Like I said, are you sitting down every day and writing down a gratitude list? Are you doing journal prompts? Are you trying to meditate? Like, I don't know. What is the actual daily ritual that you're trying to do? And I hope that it's daily. I recorded a podcast on this. I don't know if I can like link it in the show notes, but it was about finding the consistency in your daily habits, but then also being really open to um having like that freedom to decide what you need to do every day. So the consistent piece is the masculine piece, is a daily ritual. But the permission slip that I was trying to give you in that episode is, what do you actually need to do every day? So if you're feeling like you're stuck in the fixing mode in personal development, it might actually be because you've done that work, and now you need to allow some time to maybe regulate your nervous system or integrate the shifts that you're experiencing. Or it might just be, if you're a female, it might be what part of your cycle you're in. Like, I would really be encouraging you to get super clear in your cycle and the energetic imprint of each week of that cycle, and then being like, oh, okay, I'm in my luteal. Journal prompting might actually be a bit intense right now. Maybe just a walk in nature would be really nice, or self-care as well, like personal development, or these daily rituals. I don't know what you're doing, but give yourself that permission slip and that trust to tune into yourself every day and understand what you need to provide yourself every day. So say you've been journaling every day and you're just like, fuck, like I'm stuck, this isn't doing anything. It's probably because you need to shift it up. Like you've probably shifted some things and now you need to integrate. So what is integration? The first thing that comes into my mind, like I could do like a whole freaking episode on integration, but integration is about regulating your nervous system to let all of the lessons and the beautiful shifts that you've been able to manage integrate into your body. So yeah, it's like that nervous system piece. So I'm trying to not go down too many rabbit holes. This is like a big topic. So I could do follow-up episodes on this, or reach out to me with what parts resonated, and then I can go a bit deeper into that. So I feel like I'm sort of like step, but I don't want to record like a 3-hour episode as well. So the best way to come into that integration piece, like an entry point, is your breath. And I've got an episode on the importance of your breath coming out soon. But basically, your body is a vessel. So we're a spirit and a soul in this vessel that is our body. And if you're doing all that work to connect with your spiritual self, and you're doing all of that mindset work to shift those really dredgy, horrible subconscious beliefs, it's like you're like murking, like muddying up the water all the time. And your body is the lake, and you just need to let the dust settle, because you're probably walking around very dysregulated, like calling out for all of this need to integrate. And it's just see your body as like this murky water. Like, you know how you see a puddle and it's all like settled and flat? If you go in there and step in there and you muck around with like a stick and like, imagine as a kid, you're like, yeah, water, woo! And then you're trying to see clearly through that, and then you put some goggles on, you look into that puddle and you're trying to see clearly when you've just muddied it all up. Like, that's kind of analogy for the need to integrate. So if that is resonating with you, just start doing some self-care practices, spending some time in nature, reconnecting with your breath, and letting that water that you've muddied up clear again and like dissipate. And the muddy water is actually perfect, because it means that you're really dredging up those shadowy parts of yourself that you haven't been paying a lot of attention to. But chill, like you gotta let it integrate. You gotta let the muddy water become clear again, and all of those little like bits like sink back down to the bottom. And then you will get your clarity, and then you will get your shifts, and then you will get your tangible manifestations for this new version of yourself. But if you're feeling stuck in the fixing mode of personal development, it's probably because you've muddied up that water of your internal state of being so much that you can't actually see anything clearly. And that's how I was feeling when I was so into my mindset development work. But then I was like, well, fuck, I've like stirred all this stuff up, but I don't know how to do anything about it. Like, I don't know how to utilize any of this. So remembering that there might be an integration piece involved in this, and there might just be like a little personal development holiday needed. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do a daily practice every day, because that's a very beautiful way, especially in the morning if you can. Like, and it doesn't need to be elaborate, guys. It doesn't need to be 30 minutes or an hour. If you're in a season of life where you really fucking want to do that, go for it. But if you're feeling quite resistant to it, then just do a 5-minute practice and do a self-care practice. Like pop a face mask on, do a full body scrub, and then do like there's so many ways to be evolving as a human being, and it doesn't always have to be this process of fixing ourselves, So I will let that I will stop there. I just like want to keep talking, but I will this can maybe be like a starter ep. And then, like I said, we can go down all these other rabbit holes. I just will always have content. I will always have topics I want to record. So yeah. But basically that message for that next point was simplify your daily ritual. If you're feeling all over the shop and you've muddied up your inner world, just simplify it. And it could literally be as easy, like I said, a 5-minute walk or walking out into your backyard, grounding, taking some deep breaths, and just coming back to like a simple gratitude piece, or like I said, a self-care piece. So that might be a reason you're feeling stuck in your fixing mode in personal development, is because you actually your body and your holistic self, mind, body, soul, is calling out for some integration. So that doesn't mean don't do something for yourself every day, but give yourself that permission slip to diversify what you're doing for that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, however long you can provide for yourself. So yeah, play around with that. And like I said, there's another episode on this. I'll write it in the show notes what the name of the episode is, but basically it's me rambling on about this. Give yourself that structure of a daily practice, but then give yourself that permission slip to really check in with what you need every day. And that's about building that spiritual tool belt of like, okay, what do I need today? I need to regulate my nervous system, or I need to do some journal prompts, or I need to work on that subconscious belief. And over time, as you commit to this journey, you will get more and more in your tool belt. So yeah. Okay. All right. And then the last sort of piece I wanted to touch on was radical acceptance, which is a Buddhism term. So I learned this term when I worked for a psychologist. It's like, who is she? Beautiful Tina. I worked for a psychologist, and it was amazing. And she specialized in DBT, which is a behavioral therapy that pairs the opposites of change and acceptance. And it's a process of building a solid foundation of acceptance, and then you can sort of look to start making the changes. So if you're stuck in your fixing mode in your personal development journey, it might be because you're actually missing the self-acceptance piece. And like I said, that sort of comes back to that societal conditioning piece. Are you holding on to perfectionism? And that's why you can't accept yourself. And that's why you're stuck in this process of fixing yourself, because you're trying to be perfect and it's just not attainable. Like, you need to be you, and you need to come back to practices that help you remember who you are and understand who you are, rather than fixing yourself to become this perfect version of yourself that you're working towards through societal conditioning. So that's where this radical acceptance piece comes along, because you need to build a solid foundation of acceptance. Like I said, you're actually perfect right now. You've done so much work. You've got so many like external achievements. But if you're still feeling lackluster and confused and frustrated, it's because you need to come back to that perfect essence in yourself and come back to that acceptance piece. So, excuse me. Radical acceptance is a Buddhist term, and the term radical means that it's like all the way acceptance. So it's not just like, I'm going to cherry pick these parts of myself and love and accept those, and then I'm going to turn away from all those shadowy parts of myself, and I'm never going to show those parts. Like, oh man, even just saying this, it is so exhausting, compartmentalizing yourself all the time and cherry picking, like, okay, so these are the 5 parts of myself, like, oh, I'm funny and I'm acceptable and I'm this and I'm that, all of these, I'm successful and I'm a hard worker and all of this shit. But then you're like, yeah, but then I sometimes do this and that, or I can be very sensitive, or I can be very introverted, and you push those parts of yourself away. So radical acceptance is all the way acceptance, accepting every single part of yourself. And when you can get into a daily ritual of really accepting yourself, and just say you are like stuck in that fixing mode, accept that. Laugh about that. Have some fun with that. Like, oh, fuck, look at me working really hard, pushing shit up the wrong hill. Lol, and that will really release that pressure valve as well, because you're actually using so much of your energy resisting that acceptance, because you're fixing, and you're probably feeling so confused and so exhausted. You need to start shifting your daily practices or your focus, whatever. Like I said, I don't know how you're approaching this personal development thing because it's a podcast. So reach out to me. Let's have a chat. But it's about shifting your focus to that acceptance. And like I said, there's many ways that you can practice that acceptance, but just for the conciseness of this episode, I will just plant that seed of like, how can you start practicing radical acceptance for yourself? Because radical acceptance, so the signature of radical acceptance is rejecting yourself or it or whatever it is does not change it. So if you're stuck in this fixing mode, you're actually rejecting yourself, and it's not going to change it because you need to come back to that acceptance piece. Does that make sense? Oh, that lands. I feel like I was trying to like pull in a few points there, but I feel like I need to leave it there. I hope that this resonated for you guys. It's a very sticky topic. Like I said, I've covered like a handful of points, and I just, again, I'm going to honor the integration. So listen to this episode, see what comes through for you, journal on it, take a walk, meditate, reach out to me, and we can sort of go further down that rabbit hole. But I'm going to honor the need to integrate because this topic is big, guys, because personal development needs a new PR manager. It is actually it can be quite a toxic environment and a toxic community. So that is also a piece to realize as well. Like, is, a teacher that you're listening to or teachings, like, do they actually resonate with you? Like, there is so much information available out there in the world now with the internet and, the rise of consciousness and stuff like that. Maybe you need to pivot into a different focus in that personal development world because it is so loud and it's so crazy. So yeah, this is a very loaded topic is what I'm trying to say. And I can definitely do follow-up episodes on this. But for now, let this land. Practice some radical acceptance, simplify your daily ritual, realize that personal development is a lifelong journey. So that's, there, your ego and your mind is actually probably just trying to protect you, and you're right on the edge, like on the cusp of a change. Be mindful of the societal conditioning and actually give yourself that permission to understand what perfect version of yourself you are. Do you know what I mean? Like, give yourself that permission. And yeah, just really start focusing on building that solid foundation of acceptance rather than that rejection piece, because nothing's going to change when you're resisting and you're rejecting. It's about that radical acceptance and creating a solid foundation of self-acceptance and self-love. So I'll leave that there, guys. I hope this episode has landed and been of service to you. I love you guys all so much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Hey, beautiful soul. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Oasis.state podcast. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend. It means the world to me knowing that everyone who needs this medicine and magic can lovingly receive it. Also, I'd love to hear from you, so feel free to reach out via social media, my website, or email. Can't wait to connect, and until then, sending you heaps of love.